Okay, students, so the concept that we're going to talk about and review is commissions, percents increase, percent decrease, markups, tips, and tax. Okay, so this video might be a little bit long, but it is your everyday math. This is the stuff that you're going to use every day for the rest of your life. I might decide that I want to go to Target. Target has my favorite t-shirt.
And I'm going to go
it
shopping
says,
for
I
the best
love
shirt ever.
math. And I want to buy
And
this
it would say
t-shirt.
something like,
But
I love math. Okay, and this shirt would cost, I don't know, what should it cost? Let's call it $18.49. Okay, and that's how much the shirt costs if I run over to Target and pick it up. The great news is that when I grab my shirt off the rack, I realize that there's a poster hanging above it that says everything is 30% off. So I'm going to figure out how much this shirt is going to cost me. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shirt and price and I'm going to say, what is 30% of $18.49? Because this is going to tell me how much I'm not paying. It's going to tell me what the discount is, what that 30% off is. So X is equals 30% I convert to a decimal times 18.49. And now over off to the side of my paper, I do 18.49 times 30. And 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 is 14. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 is 25. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. And I have 4 decimal places. So really, I'm going to save $5.55. So if you take a look at this number, it's got 3 decimal places out there, but money is rounded to the hundredths place, which is here. So I have to take that 7 and round up. So they're going to charge me $5.55, or sorry, they're going to give me a discount of $5.55. So $5.55 is my discount. Okay? That means I'm not paying $18.49, I'm paying $5.55 less. So in order to calculate that, I have to take $18.49 and subtract my $5.55 discount, and I end up with $13.94, which is totally awesome. I could totally pay that for my favorite shirt. But guess what? That's not what I pay. It's what they're going to charge me, but there's something called tax. And we pay tax on most of the items that we buy. So let's see how tax works. Okay, so this $13.94 is the cost of the t-shirt. But when I go up to the register, they're going to ring in $13.94 for the t-shirt, and then they're going to add tax to it. And then they're going to tell me what I owe or what I have to pay. Okay? So we have to figure out what the tax is. Well, in Alameda County, our tax rate is 9%. And every county or city has a different tax rate, but ours is 9%. So I have to figure out what is 9% of that $13.94 shirt. And when I figure that out, I know how much tax I'm going to pay. So what is X equals 9% is 0.09 times $13.94. And so I'm going to come down to the bottom of my paper and I'm going to do my multiplication to make sure that I get it right. 9 times 4 is 36. Carry my 3. 9 times 9 is 81. Plus 3 is 84. 9 times 3 is 27. plus 8 is 35. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 3 is 12. And now I have 4 decimal places. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and my decimal goes here. But it's money, so I have to round. Well, this 4 rounds and keeps this guy as a 5. So my tax is $1.25 that I'm going to owe. So I'm going to put my $1.25 tax up here. And when I add, I end up with $15.19. And this is what I officially paid for the shirt. Okay? Oh, I forgot to put my tax amount over here. $1.25 was my tax. Okay, so tax is added on to the t-shirt cost or added on to your bill at the end. So now I've decided I'm done at Target. I'm going to go out to Red Robin and I'm going to have dinner. And so I place my order. I get a monster burger, a delicious strawberry shake, a basket of onion rings, and an ice cream sundae for dessert. So after I'm done, they bring me a receipt. Now these aren't the receipts from that order, but I wanted to show you a real receipt. And so basically on a real receipt from a restaurant, it will tell you everything that you've ordered. And then it'll tell you how much each specific item cost. And they do it like this on almost all the restaurant bills. Then they give you a subtotal, which means that they added up all of those items. And then what they do is they show you what your tax is that you're paying. So there's tax here and there's tax here. And then they say, all right, this is what you really owe us after we've added tax into it. Okay? But don't forget, you have to tip your waiter or your waitress. And so in order to calculate the tip, you usually take your total and usually most people do it as your total before your tax. So like the $55.36 up here or the $18.95 up here. And you take, a good tip is like 18%. So if we wanted to figure out how much we were going to tip these people and we wanted to give them an extra fabulous tip, we might tip 20%. So sometimes you can calculate this stuff really easily in your head. If you think about 10% of this amount, 10% means, oh, let's move that decimal over one. And so 10% is $5.54. So that would make 20% double that. So if you times that by 2, you have about $11. So that would be a really phenomenal tip to leave this person. And let's try it out. Let's do the math. If we have 55.36 and we want to give a 20% tip, we're multiplying that number by 20%. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry your 1. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. 2 times 5 is 10. Plus 1 is 11. And now I need 4 decimal places. So I get $11.07. And so I was right when I estimated it based on 10% and then knowing that 20% is double of 10%, I got really, really close. So an $11 tip would be about 20% of this bill here. Well, let's do it with this guy. $18.95 is the total. And if we think about 10%, 10% would be like 1,895, which is rounded to 1.90. But we don't want to give a 10% tip unless they were just really terrible. So we want to give a 20% tip, which means multiply this thing by 2. So if you multiply it by 2, you get $3.80. And that is about the tip that you would leave on this bill. Okay? And it's less because your overall total is less, and tip is based on your total, usually your subtotal. You can do it after tax. It'll cost you a little bit more, but most people do it on their subtotal. So we're going to talk about a different concept, and this is kind of a rate of change of items. So for example, this iPhone 4S, when it first came out on the market, it was selling for probably $600 each. But now that there's the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 5C, this phone doesn't sell for $600 anymore. Maybe it sells for $300. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. What I'm trying to say to you is that it started out at one price and now it's a different price. So this is the starting amount and this is what it's worth now. Okay? And so based on these numbers, we can calculate what the percent of change is for the value of this phone. And so we have a formula. So the formula is for what we call the percent of change. And the formula says, so the formula that we use is the new amount minus the original amount divided by the original amount is what gives you this percent of change. Now think about what percents are. Percent is this symbol. It's something over 100, right? So this is really another way to look at a proportion. So I'm going to change the page and I'm going to go back to our formula and our starting and new amount. So our formula is that percent of change is going to be equal to the new minus the original amount divided by the original. Now my original amount for my phone was $600 and now my phone is worth $300. So these are the numbers that we're using. We just have to plug them into the right spot. So starting amount, the amount I bought it for, would be my original. Okay, and the amount that it's worth now would be its new rate. Okay, and so that stands for the N. So let's plug the numbers in. We want to figure out what the percent is. What is this percent of change? So the new amount is $300 minus that original amount of $600 divided by the original amount of $600. So as we work our math, 300 minus 600 is equal to negative 300 divided by 600. Okay, well some of you can see that there's tens in here. So divide the top and the bottom by 10 and I get rid of a 0. Divide the top and the bottom by another 10, I get rid of another 0. This 6 has a 3 and a 2 in it. And this negative 3 is really a negative 1 and a 3. So I can see another equivalent form of 1. So what I'm left with is this percent is really negative 1/2. Well, is negative 1/2 a percent? No, it's a fraction. So how do we turn a fraction into a percent? Well, we divide it. So we have a negative 1 divided by a 2. 2 goes into 1 0 times, but 2 goes into 10 5 times. So my decimal is a negative 0.5, and we know that when we have a decimal, we then multiply it by 100 to get it as a percent. And I end up with negative, I'm going to move my decimal 2 places, 1, 2, and I end up with negative 50%. So this means that my percent of change is equal to negative 50%. Well, negative 50%, what does that mean? It means that the value of my phone dropped. It started off high and it went down, which is why it's negative. Down is less. It's a negative number. Okay? Let's look at it in the opposite way. Let's pretend that I bought something for $25, like a baseball card. So I bought this baseball card for $25 and I went on to eBay to sell it and I find out that it's worth $300. So my original amount that I paid for it is the $25 and the new amount that it's worth is $300. So let's figure out what the percent of change is. So remember, the percent of change is equal to new minus original divided by original. Now this should be a positive number because it went from a small number to a big number, which is an increase, and an increase should show as a positive number. So let's see if that happens. My new number was 300 minus my original number, which is 25, divided by my original number, which is 25. So the percent is 300 minus 25. Well, that's 275 divided by 25. And I'm going to use my primes, and I'm going to say that 275 is really 25 times something, because I can think in quarters. And so in 100, there's 4 25s. In 200, there would be 8 25s. And in 75 cents, there would be 3 more. So 8 plus 3 is 11. So 25 times 11 is 275. So I can say that I have this equivalent form of 1. And I end up with this percent is equal to 11. So let's think about this for a minute, because we think we're done, but let's use some logic. Going from 25 to 50 would be 100% increase. But I went from 25 to 300. That means it's way more than 100% increase. So what I have to remember is that this percent is really x over 100 equals 11 over 1. And in order to get my x all alone, I have to do that cross products. And so I end up with x is equal to 1100. And that's what makes the percent. So my percent of change is really 1100%. It's an increase. It's a positive number. It went from a small number to a bigger number. Now I want to go back and look at slide 7 with you. So when I take a look back at this past problem that I did, where my cell phone started off at the $600 and it decreased to 300 number, so it started at a high number, ended up at a low number, that was a decrease. Okay, my percent of change, my value of my phone decreased. It went from high to low, and that decrease was shown as a negative number. So that's really important when you're looking at these features. Okay guys, so this is page 170 in the textbook, and what I really want you to do is I want you to do numbers 3 through 17 odd. Okay, and that means that you can check the answers in the back of your textbook to see if you got them right or not. And so what I want you to do when you're first doing this first section up here, I want you to say, tell whether the change is an increase or a decrease. So when I look at number 3, I say, oh, it's going from 10 to 16, it's getting bigger. That must mean it's an increase and it's a positive number. For number 5, it goes from a big number, 33,000, down to 31,000. It goes less. Less is subtract, which means it is a decrease. 50 to 45 is a decrease again. Okay, so right away you can tell whether it's an increase or a decrease. Now it says find the percentage change. Round to the nearest percent. So they want it rounded to the nearest whole percent. Okay, so do the odds on these pages and check yourself in the back of the book. I'm going to post a few videos online that will be help for this week for the types of problems that we're doing. So if you get stuck, go watch one of the short little videos. They're like 2 and 3 minutes long if you're stuck on a certain type of a problem.